Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Hi everyone, as Max from Incubator, and I'm here to talk to you today about the concept of search incrementality, and more specifically, how you can use AI or preferably machine learning to actually combine PPC and SEO into total search and ensure we're not cannibalizing our SEO with paid search, and make sure that all of our paid search activities are actually driving incremental value for us over and above our organic listings. So jumping straight into the total search challenge. And what we're really talking about here is the age-old questions of search, like, is paid search actually worth it? You know, I'm sure we've all thought about this at some stage or another, particularly on our branded keywords. That progresses us on to then, if I were to turn it off, how much would my organic pick up? Again, we've all done these kinds of tests, and sadly, the answer is never 100%. I wish it were. This talk would be a lot shorter. But then that progresses us to, how can I actually find a way to optimize my paid search activity with relevant to organic to actually only spend money when it's adding value over and above that organic listing? So firstly, what do we mean by total search? Now, for us, this means kind of the collective output of the paid and the organic together. So we spend money on all three of these things, all appearing together on the SERP, all through three completely separate ranking systems. Contrary to popular belief, SEO is not completely free. At least good SEO is not, but I'm probably preaching to the choir here at Brighton SEO. We invest time, expertise, and effort in optimizing our listings to make sure we move up the organic rankings. We bid on keywords and text ads, trying to compete to move up the text ad rankings. And then on shopping tiles, we bid on products and hope that our feed matches the search queries to improve our rankings on the shopping tiles. So three completely separate ranking systems that we're spending time and money on. It would be really nice if Google gave us a tool to actually manage these in conjunction, but of course they don't, for their own separate reasons. So what is the result of that? I mean, very obviously, as you can imagine, we're going to see incredible levels of wasted ad spend here. You know, spending loads of money on shopping, text ads, where we would have picked up that traffic anyway through organic. Secondly, we're completely devaluing all the work that we're doing in SEO. All that great work in improving our rankings just for paid teams to come along and put everything on broad match and PMax and start really spending money on that traffic and taking that traffic away from your great organic work. And finally, there's also really missed opportunity to actually measure the financial value, the monetary value of all that great work you're doing in optimizing the SEO listings. So in an ideal world, if my paid and organic are working completely in conjunction, any improvement in my organic ranking, my paid activity would respond in kind. It would actually reduce its position to try and leverage that organic position and that better organic CTR to drive more volume from clicks relative to from organic relative to paid, generate the same amount of revenue but at a much lower cost. So I could take that cost saving and take that to my boss, the C-suite, the budget, the purse string holders, and actually using that to prove out the value of all the great work my SEO team's done in improving that ranking. So we're really missing that opportunity here as well. So none of that sits very well with me. I'm sure it doesn't sit well with you. So how can we solve for that? The first thing we need to do is we really need to define our goal here. So, total search obviously is incredibly broad. There's so much long tail within search. What we really want to focus on are these areas of overlap. So these high volume organic queries where there's potential for a lot of cannibalization. We need to make sure that we're setting this goal for ourselves, that we only want to be leveraging paid when it's providing that incremental value above organic. And to do that, we need to switch from individual siloed metrics for SEO and PPC separately. We need to start thinking about things like total search, so total CPC, total CTR, and fundamentally total search profits. This is what our shining light should be, our North Star to maximizing our results from the SERP. And it's all well and good doing it once, but we need to be fully reactive to all changes in the environment. We know that search, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's so many different variables here that we need to think about. So any kind of change in my competitor's paid activity, I need to be able to respond to. If my SEO ranking changes, like I say, we want to be able to change our paid position. If performance on the site changes, the conversion rate improves, I should be reacting to that. And similarly, if my feed changes and my shopping performance changes, I need to be reactive to that in my text ad strategy. And we need to really set the theory here. There are some approaches out there in the market that basically use this assumption that all overlap of paid and organic is bad. But we already know that when we've tried to turn off paid and organic hasn't picked up the 100%, that's not necessarily true. And they operate by just sort of scraping the page, seeing that there's a paid, you've got top paid position and you've got the organic position, and they just turn the ad off. But one of the unfortunate truths of search and working with Google is that by having the paid listing and the organic listing, you take up more real estate on the SERP. And with that comes an increased CTR. There's incremental CTR to be gained by that. So the question for me becomes then, how much incremental CTR am I getting from having both listings? How much incremental revenue am I generating from that listing, that increased CTR, sorry? And how much am I paying for the privilege? And ideally, what we should be trying to do is let the data make this decision for us and finding the optimum bid to use within paid that maximizes that difference in the incremental revenue and the cost. So it might be for keyword X that, we can't actually get the incremental CTR to CPC that makes sense. So let's bid that down to 0. But for keyword Y, it might be completely different. I might be able to generate additional revenue at a much lower cost by having both listings there. So it's not really like a black and white on-off decision. There's a lot of nuance here because provided my conversion rate's non-zero, there should always be a price I'm willing to pay to have that incremental CTR. So we need to be much more detailed with our approach than just assuming that all overlap is bad. So what that really means is that we need a machine learning driven bid strategy that factors in organic. So similar to like a Google bid strategy for paid, but one that actually leverages the organic data within it. And the best way to articulate how that kind of works here is this sort of basic diagram here on the side. So what we see really here is if you imagine all your keywords along the x-axis and you imagine all your bids along the y-axis, and you imagine this red line here being where your current paid media bid strategy is setting you with 0 reference for organic. And then if we theorize this blue line where you would actually set the optimum bid when you're factoring that organic data into your bidding model. And we see kind of two conflicting themes here. So on the left-hand side with keyword 1 and 2, we see by looking at paid and organic in conjunction, we can identify areas where, organic on its own isn't necessarily cutting it. We're seeing a lot of leakage to competitors, and there's scope to actually increase the activity on the paid side to capture that traffic back from competitors and capture value in this blue shaded area of reducing that missed opportunity and that leakage to your competitor sites. And then conversely, on the right-hand side, which is probably more commonly what we see on keywords 4 and 5, again, looking at paid and organic in conjunction, we can identify keywords where we're significantly over-invested on those keywords in paid. We can reduce those the paid investment, reduce the paid CPC, drive a significantly larger proportion of clicks from organic, and generate the same amount of revenue at a lower cost. So capturing that red shaded area of reduced cannibalization of SEO and reduced overinvestment. And essentially what we're trying to do at all times here is shift spend from that red shaded area to the blue shaded area to help us benefit total search on both ends of the spectrum. So what we need to do to actually do that is firstly, we need to solve the initial data challenge. And some of you, particularly the SEO practitioners out there might have already foreseen the issue that we're going to have here, is that if we want to optimize each keyword to its total search profits, how are we going to actually build out the organic revenue contribution at a keyword level? Because that's not available in Search Console, it's not available in GA, hasn't been in GA for about 15 years. So if we really actually want to find that optimum point of production method of paid and organic, we need to do that first. So from Search Console, of course, we know the impressions, we know the clicks, we know the position to the individual keyword and device level, but that's it. Whereas Google Ads, we have everything. We have the delivery data, the competitive data, we have the revenue data. So what we can do is for each keyword, each device, from an organic perspective, we can look to Google Ads for the corresponding exact match keyword in Google Ads, where we can actually model the conversion rate and the average order value back to the amount of organic clicks that we're getting. So this builds the base data set for each keyword that we're looking at within this model. We now know the paid spend, we know the organic revenue, and we know the paid revenue. So we now have the base data set for us to start building our model. So that's what we need to do next. We need to train our model. And the way that we do this is by going through what we call sort of a learning phase. So through this process, what you can do is if you slowly increase and decrease the bids to different desired impression share levels by very small increments each time, we can obviously through that process find the optimum point of production. What is the paid bid that is going to drive us maximum total search profits? But what we can also do is evaluate what we like to call the bid elasticity. So through this process, moving those bids up and down in small increments, we can learn precisely what kind of bid step change is required to deliver the kind of impression share step change that we're looking for. So this means we know that in reaction to any of these changes in the environment, like organic position or paid competition, we now know exactly how much we need to change our bid by to get that desired level of impression share. And here's some data of kind of like how our model's working. And this data will be of absolutely no surprise to any of you, but if anyone's struggling to convince their paid teams that they're cannibalizing their SEO efforts, this is the graph to take a picture of, because this is the data of all of our clients using this methodology, where we map the organic CTR next to the paid impression share. So what you can see here is a clear negative correlation between organic CTR and paid impression share, showing that we are cannibalizing our organic the more and more we're getting aggressive with paid. So how can we build this model to be able to solve for this? So now we have this model built where we're finding the optimum bid for paid to push into Google Ads to deliver the maximum amount of profit on each keyword in each device. So now the easy bit is just activating that in Google Ads. You know, we've done our conversion modeling to build our base data set. We run our machine learning model in the cloud. We use GCP. It's quite fun to use Google's own tools against them. And then we activate the bid in Google Ads via the API every day. So setting the bid for each keyword and each device each day. And what we have here then is a pipeline to fully manage paid and organic in unison on these high volume organic keywords. And what's more, it's fully reactive to any changes in the environment. So if, as we discussed, if organic position changes, if it improves, the model will recognize that, decrease the bid, rely more on organic, and generate more profits. Similarly, if there's a paid competition that comes in, let's say a paid competitor comes in to position 1 and knocks you down to position 2 within paid. The model will, by its very nature, test whether it's actually more profitable for you to go back above that paid competition, back to position 1, spend a bit more, generate a bit more revenue, or are you actually better off in position 2, relying on that listing and your organic listing? Will that actually generate more profits for you that way? So it'll test that for you. Similarly, if conversion rate changes on site, if conversion rate improves on site, all of a sudden that incremental CTR I'm getting from having the paid listing there is now worth more to me. So I should be expecting to see the model increase my paid activity in reaction to that. And even smaller things like ad formats and SERP structure, you know, at certain CPC, your extensions on your paid ads start to show in full. So model will test for you whether it's actually worth paying that little bit extra to take up more real estate on the SERP and capturing more incremental CTR and revenue, or you actually generate more profit with the shortened version by paying a bit less. So all these kind of questions we always have within search, the model can take care of that for you. So that's how the bid optimization element works. The last thing I kind of want to talk you through is the value that you can get from the insights in working this way, and specifically how that can work for SEOs. Because by its very nature, this model is obviously designed to maximize the value you're getting from SEO. You know, we're removing all that unnecessary paid interference in your SEO, making sure that you're getting the full amount of clicks and CTR that you're getting from all the great work you're doing optimizing the listings. But there's so much more value you can also get in actually analyzing the insights of this. So what we are able to do when we're running this model is map the paid and organic next to each other and see how these things cause ripple effects for everything. So again, if my SEO position improves, I can see that. I can see what impact that has for my organic CTR. I can then see the paid model by its very nature and decreasing our paid investment, reducing my paid CPC, reducing my paid impression share. And then what does that mean again for my organic CTR? So we can monitor the ripple effects of all these things by managing these things completely in conjunction through these dashboards. And there's kind of separate ways that SEOs can leverage this before, so even beyond. So we kind of already talked about putting the monetary value to the ranking improvements. Again, in that dashboard, I can see precisely, you know, how my organic position has changed on a certain set of keywords. I can then see how much the model has been able to reduce the spend and drive the same amount of revenue. And that monetary value is proof of the great work that my team has done in improving the rankings on SEO. Separately, it just brings SEOs a lot closer to what's fully going on within the SERP. So with those dashboards, they can understand exactly where it happens when, we know that the paid team have improved, they've become more aggressive in their position on the paid side. What does that then mean for my SEO CTRs? Like what is that actually impacting for me? And beyond that, they can also see, okay, I know the paid strategy hasn't changed, but I see that my organic CTRs have reduced. I can understand now when competitor action on the paid side is affecting my performance as an SEO. So it brings a lot more insights and exposure to the SEOs in general. And then finally, by looking at these things in conjunction, we can actually really find areas of opportunity and flag areas of opportunity for SEOs to work on improving the ranking for that'll drive maximum total search benefit. So I can set filters to say, organic position is worse than 1.7, my CPC is higher than 50p, and my total CTR is less than X. We can build these custom filters to give kind of a hit list of keywords for SEOs to work on improving the ranking. And this for us fuels what we like to talk about in terms of the total search flywheel. So if you imagine this, our model is set the optimum point of production on day one to find the optimum bid to drive maximum value, then spits out these areas of opportunity. The SEO teams do what they do in optimizing the listings, improving the position, and then the model again recalibrates to that new organic position, reducing the spends, and then spits out further recommendations again. So this continues to go through in a flywheel effect, driving really incremental and constant growth for total search. So quickly just touching on why this is more important than ever. We've been doing this for a while, but it's becoming even more apparent. And this is mainly because Google are really pushing their modern search methodologies within the paid world. So if you guys are on the SEO side, you might want to check in with your paid teams about what their strategy is, because what they are suggesting is a lot more PMax, a lot more broad match, much less exact match. So this is great for performance as they see it in the Google paid side, but it really affects your ability to actually drive the maximum value from your SEO because we have that loss of control. And PMax and broad match are great tools and we love using them. But what we should be using them for is what they're meant for, which is unpacking the long tail, driving new customer acquisition in the long tail. The problem being, if you leave them to their own devices, they will bid like crazy over your high volume organic terms without you having any control or visibility on that. So what we propose by doing this model is, building these keywords out as exact match keywords, building negative keywords to add to PMax and broad match, and making sure that you're fully in control of that incrementality and making sure they're not cannibalizing your SEO like crazy. And the result of this is that we get the best of both worlds. PMax does what it's meant to do, which is unpicking the long tail, and we prevent it from cannibalizing all of our SEO efforts. And then, of course, we know that the SERPs are massively changing within Google. What is coming up now with more of the AI showing in the SERPs is different kind of page formats. We're seeing a lot more of mid-page PPC ads. And that, again, lends itself to us to know that these always-on, always-off strategies are not the optimal strategy for us anymore. You can be top in organic and be mid-page ads, giving you a second bite of the cherry on that user. So it's definitely not enough to just be always on and off anymore. This has only exacerbated the need to be a bit more nuanced in your strategy. And as this is a success session, I thought I'd end with some success stories. So we did this with a client of ours called Superdrug, and we found that this client was massively overinvested. We were able to reduce their CPCs by 50% using this methodology whilst actually maintaining total CTR. So by moving from that approach of paid and organic separately to total, you can reevaluate things differently, identify this massive wasted spend, and generate a lot better results in terms of revenue and efficiency. And these things can even slot into your MMM models that your paid teams will be using. So again, you can see an example here of a client implementing this method on their branded spend. We would see that actually as soon as they implement it, you can tell where it's happened. We've reduced that spend to only the incremental areas and massively improved the incremental ROAS as told by their MMM model. And finally, these kinds have gone a bit funny, but this was only for illustrative purposes anyway. I don't expect anyone in the back to be able to read this. There's also so many different unwritten, these age-old questions of search that we're able to answer with this kind of methodology. So, the last example of branded spend is a really obvious one. But, what do I do about my generics? What do I do when conversion rate on site is plummeted? These are all questions that we're able to answer with using this kind of methodology and able to use, the dashboards to actually tell the story of exactly what's happening. So if we take the example that we've been using the whole time, which is this bottom example of, if my organic position improves, how should I react from a paid perspective? This is an example of kind of what you would see in a dashboard where we can see, okay, my organic position is improved. What does that mean for me in the actual CPC reductions? What does that mean for me in terms of my total CTR? So you can see here, we reduced the CPC by 38% and actually grew the CTR because of that great work the organic team have done in improving the ranking. So we need to make sure that we're using these things in conjunction, not completely separately. And there's a QR code at the end where you can access all of these user stories and the actual real life data from our clients, obviously all anonymized, where you can actually see exactly what I'm talking about here. And then finally, just to leave you with some takeaways, I realized that, going back into the office on Monday morning and building machine learning model isn't accessible for everybody here. So how can you kind of get started on this incremental approach to total search on your own? The first thing I encourage everyone to do is make sure that you're looking at linking up Google Ads and Search Console. This is the one tool that Google will actually give us to manage these things in conjunction, and it still surprises me how few people have actually set this up. Then make sure that you are isolating those top SEO terms in paid. Build them out as exact match keywords. Make sure the paid team are adding them as negative keywords to PMax and broad match to make sure that we're in full control of how much they're appearing over your SEO listings. Thirdly, get familiar with the paid and organic reports that come once you've linked Search Console and Google Ads up. This is, again, as I say, the one tool that Google gives us. We won't be able to see anything about, organic revenue, organic transactions like we talk about elsewhere, but you'll be able to see everything on a click basis. And from here, you can actually start designing some tests. So you can start working with your paid team for 1 week. Let's say we're going to increase the aggressiveness of our paid activity. In the paid and organic reports, I can analyze exactly what that's meant for my organic position on those keywords. And conversely, 1 week, then you might actually reduce the activity and see how much the SEO picks up. So this is all you can all do it on a click basis. Finally, I'll leave you with this kind of QR code. If you want to learn more about our products in this area, we call it Seamless Search, where you can get the full solution of how we do it with kind of revenue and profit based. So on this QR code, you'll be able to find the success stories that I was kind of mentioning there at the end and how the data can actually answer these questions for you. And what's more, you can actually get a personalized forecast and dashboard from our system just to see what your position is like on total search. And there's a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, if there's any further questions on this, I'll be around at the end. And I think my colleagues got some leaflets somewhere in the back as well. But thank you very much for listening and have a great rest of your conference.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.